Hi everyone, Dr. Kelli-an Lawrence here. I'm glad you could join me for this first mini lecture of Lesson 4. It's about needs assessments, and later on we are going to talk about SWOT analyses. So to plan a successful social marketing or health campaign, one that effectively engages members of the target audience in real life-enhancing behavior change, you must genuinely understand the target audience as individuals and as a community. Why? Because you can't design a successful social marketing health campaign without a profound understanding of the target audience. This deep understanding of the target audience is necessary for achieving the benchmarks of successful social marketing. Those benchmarks are consumer orientation, insight, exchange, competition, segmentation. Even the methods mix you use and the theory on which you base your campaign activities are guided by your understanding of the target audience. And if any of these terms sound unfamiliar to you, you seriously need to go back and reread the Big Pocket Guide to Social Marketing. This whole course is about constructing social marketing campaigns. Be sure you can name and describe the benchmarks of successful social marketing as easily as you can count to 10. Anyway, back to the mini lecture. Let's look at what a community health assessment is and how to use it to gain a comprehensive understanding of who the target audience is, what its health needs are, and how we can build on their own strengths and community assets to improve their health. We'll start with the basic question, what is a community health needs assessment? A community health needs assessment is a public health tool that's used to identify and understand individual and community health needs that are currently unmet by existing programs, services, or structural supports. It also reveals strengths and resources available in the community that could help meet these needs. So, with that in mind, we might now ask, what are community needs? Community needs are the gaps between what programs, services, supports currently exist in a community and what programs, services, supports should exist in the community. We can think about 4 different types of needs or gaps in a community. First are absolute needs. These are things that individuals actually need for survival. Food, water, safety, shelter. Second are expressed needs. Expressed needs are gaps individuals have already experienced and have sought help for. For example, they might have experienced food insecurity and looked for solutions to this need. Outside observers can see expressed needs. Perceived needs are what individuals believe they need. A family who has access to a small playground for their children may still feel the need to have better or more accessible recreational opportunities, a nicer playground, a bigger parkland, more facilities. When it comes to perceived needs, a person on the outside may not see the existence of that need. Finally, relative needs are gaps that place certain segments of the population at an ongoing disadvantage. Society would be a better, healthier, more equitable place if these gaps did not exist. And with these definitions in mind, let's look again at what a community health assessment is. Here's another definition to go along with the first one I gave you. If we ask, what is a community health needs assessment? We might describe it as a tactical way of analyzing gaps in health programs and services, as well as analyzing strengths and assets available in the community that will help reduce or eliminate those gaps. A community health needs assessment provides a framework for generating solutions, that is, interventions, that will move individuals and the community towards better health. Now we can ask, how is a community health assessment used? A community health needs assessment is used to figure out what resources, services, messages, structures, policies, etc. should be prioritized to address the needs that were revealed. It suggests how to rally and enhance community assets in order to address the needs of individuals and their community. So a community health needs assessment can reveal that policy must be changed in order to address individuals' needs. This can involve changing provincial laws, regional bylaws, or organizational policies that impact behavior. For example, if the community needs more green space for active outdoor living, the solution might be a new city bylaw that requires parks, playgrounds, and sidewalks to be included in new housing developments, or it might be zoning restrictions against developing greenbelt areas. Sometimes a community health assessment reveals that a system-wide change is required to address individuals' needs. In other words, the culture or the social norms of an organization, institution, or system must change to respond to the needs of individuals in the community. For example, if members of the Brock community need to feel more connected to and respected by one another, the solution might be a shift towards tolerance, inclusivity, compassion in the values and norms of the entire campus and all of its systems and structures. A community health needs assessment can also reveal that an environmental change is needed, whether that change is in the physical, social, or economic environment. Imagine, for example, that a community health needs assessment reveals poorer mental health among Indigenous students compared to majority culture students. Health-enhancing changes to the physical environment might include creating a healing garden on campus, while changes to the social and economic environments might include more culturally informed social events funded by the university. Okay, about 100 slides ago, I told you that this mini lecture looks at what a community health needs assessment is, how to use it to gain a comprehensive understanding of who the target audience is, what its health needs are, and how we can build on their own strengths and community assets to improve their health. We've covered a lot of this, but there's still plenty more to go to reach a full understanding of community health needs assessments. So let's just take a little break right now, and then we'll pick it back up in just a moment. And we're back, ready to look at our next big question about community health needs assessment, and that is, who conducts them? By now, you've figured out that a community health needs assessment guides decision-making and priority setting regarding how community strengths and assets can be used to address gaps in programs, services, and supports. This means community members and stakeholders from various sectors should be fully involved in the entire process of the needs assessment. Community engagement can make the community a valued actor in the process rather than just the subject of it. Engaging folks in positive ways enhances the likelihood of developing an acceptable, successful solution for community needs. And so with that in mind, let's look at the basic steps for conducting a community health needs assessment. There are 7 in total, and we're going to take a look at each of them in turn, starting with step 1. Step 1, define your community. We typically think of a community as people in a given geographical location, but a community can refer to any group that shares something in common. So a community can be a neighborhood, a campus, or an apartment complex where people have location in common, but it can also be a club, a cultural group, or a collection of people defined by characteristics of its members rather than by geography. So for example, I belong to a community of runners that stretches right across the world. We share a common interest in running, and we have many overlapping experiences. Communities can share common characteristics such as race, ethnicity, professional ties, economic strata, religion, culture, shared background, common interest, self-identities, and so on. When defining your community, your goal is to understand its culture and social structure, as well as the physical environment if one exists, so you can target an intervention to the community. You need to be sure to consider attitudes and values of the community members, and also pay close attention to where the communities live, play, work, and gather, since place can hugely influence how people access programs, services, information, and so on. In step 2, you decide on scope. You determine the scope of the community's needs. Communities' needs are often interconnected and complicated. It can be tempting to try to address all the needs of individuals in your community. Of course, this just isn't workable. Instead, you must identify community needs that match your available expertise and resources, and that concentrate your efforts on the needs that you can actually address and hopefully resolve. The third step in conducting a community health needs assessment is identify community strengths and assets. In step 3, you figure out what assets are available to successfully respond to community needs. Assets can include people, so volunteers, community members, experts, resources, materials, and equipment, the ability to alter policies, funding, other organizations and individuals who already provide programs, services, or structural supports. Assets can also be the enthusiasm, action, and advocacy of people within the community. Remember, communities have many strengths, not just needs. Step 4 is all about making connections. To collect data for your community health needs assessment, you'll want to speak to the right people, from kids to elders, underprivileged to wealthy, and marginalized to powerful. It's especially important to get the perspective of people who don't usually have a voice in community decisions and politics. So, for example, low-income people, newcomers, and other marginalized groups. At the same time, you must also hear from people who are in positions of power and/or who have the trust of the community: elected officials, administrators, community leaders, business leaders, community activists, and so on. These people are often the final decision makers who will influence whether required changes to policies, systems, and environments will be made. Step 5 is data collection. At this point, you have everything in place. You've defined the community, you've set the scope of work, you've figured out what assets might be available, and you've built connections with people from the community. Now is the time to use a combination of quantitative and qualitative data from archived and contemporary sources to gain a complete data-driven picture of the needs and assets that exist in the community. Collect these data using interviews and focus groups, questionnaires, observational techniques, and historical records and reports. Figure out whether the needs of the community are expressed, perceived, or relative, and aim to develop a clear picture of the community's needs and assets so you can determine what programs, services, supports are needed to fill the gaps. Step 6 focuses on data analysis. Because the data for a community health needs assessment typically includes written notes from interviews and observations, participants' answers to surveys, your own summaries of government reports and news stories, not to mention any other miscellaneous data sources that you've used, data analysis can feel really overwhelming. The secret is to concentrate on patterns and trends in the data. Specifically, use your data to answer 4 key questions. What are the existing strengths of your community? What are the apparent gaps or needs in the community? Are there any common challenges that affect your community members? For example, are people of all ages or all cultures or all economic strata voicing a common complaint or concern? And finally, are there any known opportunities you can take advantage of? For example, is there a key point of strength or community spirit that people would rally around and build on? During data analysis, you also want to explore issues of equity, being aware of whether disadvantaged groups need more attention than advantaged groups. Step 7, present your findings. Typically, after conducting a community health needs assessment, organizations produce a print, verbal, or digital report. This report is used to present the results of the community health needs assessment in a truly understandable and engaging way. The aim is to inspire community members, stakeholders, decision makers, and other powerful people to all want to move forward to address the identified gaps. Hopefully, the result is action that promotes the health of individuals and their community. So, the takeaway message here. A community health needs assessment reveals capabilities of individuals and organizations in the community, as well as gaps in programs, services, and structural supports. It provides a framework for generating solutions that will move the community towards better health. And that's it for this mini lecture. Maybe more of a monster than a mini. Good for you for sticking with it until the end. As always, and very sincerely, if you have any questions or concerns, if you need a bit of guidance about school or life, please reach out to me. I'm here for you. Otherwise, have a great day, a great night, a great week. Bye for now.